Going to call the House Judiciary Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the attendance?
Chair Lightner.
Here.
Representatives Begol.
Here.
Wozniak.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
DeBoyer.
Here.
Johnson. Schutte. Carter.
Here.
Hope. Here. Green. Scott.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 8 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Rep Harris moves to excuse absent members. Hearing no objection, absent members are excused. Rep Begol moves to adopt the minutes from the January 21st meeting. Hearing no objection, the meeting minutes are adopted. All right, with that, we have House Bill 4949 by Rep Wortz. Rep Wortz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Leitner and members of the House Judiciary Committee. I'm here today in support of my bill, House Bill 4949, which would allow shooting sports ranges to expand or modernize their facilities without losing the liability protections they're afforded under the law. This is a common sense change which not only allows ranges to expand as needs arise, but also encourages them to make needed safety upgrades or other improvements. Also with me here today to testify via Zoom is Michigan United Conservation Clubs, who I worked with on the language of this bill.
All right, well, I do have a card here for him. Supporting the bill, wishing to speak, David Van Lopalik. I don't know. I totally destroyed that, I'm sure. Sorry. Anyways, from the MUCC. Let's see. Is he on there? All right. Dave, how do you say your last name? Oh, you got the audio. Oh, okay. There it is. Hi, Dave. How do you say your last name?
It's Van Lopik.
Van Lopik. Oh, okay.
Capital
That's a K.
L-O-P-I-K.
Sorry, on my card it's not super legible. Anyways, thank you for testifying today. Rep Wortz did do her introduction, so you have the floor for a few minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today on behalf of House Bill 4949. My name is David Van Lopik. I'm a 37-year veteran law enforcement officer. I retired from Michigan State Police. I'm a member of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs and several local conservation clubs in Southwest Michigan. I'm also a competitive pistol and rifle shooter, range safety officer, and formally certified rifle and pistol coach. Information I present today will show support for updating the Sport Shooting Ranges Act 269 of 1989 with HB 4949, which would allow a sport shooting range to update, modify, make improvements, or expand ranges according to generally accepted operational practices as recognized by the Commission on Natural Resources. Most conservation clubs, sporting clubs, and rod and gun clubs in Michigan were founded in the 1950s through 1980s. My home club, Kalamazoo Rod and Gun Club, was founded in 1934 and changed its name and purpose in 1953 to reflect its additional purpose of sport shooting. Demographics have changed throughout the years with changes from rural property to more suburban and urban areas. With these changes came the need for safe locations to target, shoot, compete, and sight in firearms for hunting. Conservation clubs, sport shooting clubs, and sport shooting ranges have stepped up to provide safe locations to shoot. Individuals have increasingly embraced competitive shooting and target shooting with a wide variety of courses of fire and challenges. More women are shooting and competing in recent years. Women are protecting themselves with firearms training and by obtaining a concealed pistol license. Conservation clubs, sporting clubs, and sport shooting ranges have had substantial increases in membership and usage with member and non-member events. The Department of Natural Resources has few public ranges. However, most are in the Detroit metro and Lansing area, with one located in West Michigan. The DNR has also prohibited target shooting in a number of state game areas. I understand the DNR has attempted to develop additional ranges, but due to cost, individual opposition, and local government opposition, they have had limited success in developing and opening additional sport shooting ranges. Law enforcement agencies utilize conservation clubs and sporting clubs and firearms ranges to train and qualify their officers at no cost to the law enforcement agency as a public service by these clubs. My home club in Kalamazoo is used by Kalamazoo Public Safety, Kalamazoo Township Police Department, Portage Police Department, Kalamazoo Sheriff's Department, and Michigan State Police Posts to train and qualify their personnel several times each year. This can bring its own issues. My home club was sent a cease and desist order from a local government attorney claiming that we were no longer a rod and gun club, but a de facto law enforcement officer training facility. Their reasoning was that law enforcement was utilizing the ranges more often than our club's organized events. After a year of back and forth with attorneys at a significant expense, and with the support from those law enforcement agencies, we reopened the club to allow law enforcement to train and qualify. In another instance, the Southwest Michigan Club, which owns significant property, added additional pistol ranges to accommodate Action Pistol and International Defensive Pistol Association events. After building berms according to national standards, they were sued by a local business and individuals claiming they had changed their property composition and therefore no longer complied with the Sport Shooting Range Act, PA 269 of 1989. Rather than bankrupt their club with a lengthy legal process, the club leveled their berms on the additional pistol ranges. I believe these are just a few examples of the issues facing existing conservation clubs and sport shooting ranges in Michigan and their attempt to provide a safe, clean, modern facility. To accommodate the increasing number of firearms enthusiasts, sport shooting activities, training of law enforcement officers and concealed pistol license holders, existing conservation clubs and sport shooting facilities need to be allowed to purchase additional property, update existing ranges, add safety upgrades, expand ranges, upgrade facilities, and allow the development of new firearms ranges under generally accepted operational practices, grandfathering in the protections enacted in prior range laws and noise ordinances. HB 4949 would ensure the continuation of providing a safe, secure, and updated facilities for individuals practicing their shooting sports and law enforcement to train and qualify with their firearms without the threat of action of nuisance or litigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Reports, do you have any additional comments?
I would just say that that's really, he summarizes it well. This is just simply to stop some of these nuisance lawsuits that have started to occur. And in my own local district, Hillsdale College has developed a wonderful shooting sports range and facility. I invite you all to come take a class there. That's where my husband and I went through some gun safety training and used the pistol range and benefited greatly from the educational value that it brought to us, and it generates a lot of just community involvement. It's where all the local schools that have shooting clubs, they're allowed to use that facility, and they have continued to grow and expand, and this legislation would also benefit them and, like he said, a lot of the other shooting ranges in the state from these nuisance lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. Minority Vice Chair Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Representative Wortz. Quick question. So I look at this, it says local ordinance immunity. So I have actually 2 gun ranges, and I'm a retired officer and a former NRA certified instructor as well. this doesn't say anything, it doesn't clearly define what modifications and updates are. That's a little too broad for our local control. Could you give me an idea or an example of what that would be?
So,
Yeah, or the gentleman.
so Kalamazoo Rod Gun Club has purchased an additional 160 acres since their founding for primarily action as a buffer zone around the property. We could expand our rifle range to a longer distance. We could add additional pistol pits to cater to additional pistol shooters. We do hold events for our scholastic shotgun sporting groups in the area. So the problem is clubs are afraid of being involved in litigation, which I believe is improper, just for, let's say, expanding a rifle range from 200 yards to 300 yards in a safe manner as prescribed by the Natural Resources Commission and national organizations.
So thank you for that answer, because you said from 200 to 300. That seems reasonable, but reasonable could be different in different municipalities. So this would take away local control from monitoring this?
I think
Well-
sorry. It would just,
I-
it would make it in compliance with the state, what he's saying with the NRC.
And it goes back to 1994 compliance, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
That's a long ways away. Thank you.
Rep. Breen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm wondering, have you spoken with any of the other, the local organizations like the Michigan Municipal League or the Townships Association to discuss how this might impact their communities and get a broader idea as to whether or not there are pending cases or issues out there? Because I'd like to know what was the catalyst for this. And I'm sorry if I missed that, but then my apologies. But also, I as somebody who comes from a local government perspective here, I'm not keen on overriding local control.
Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that? I have not had any negative feedback, I will say that, from them.
What kind of feedback have you had?
Not much. So I haven't, there's been no opposition, I guess, is what I would say.
Have you spoken with the MML or the MTA or?
Not in direct, if you're referencing the guidelines of this bill, not specifically to this bill, but I've met with them before and they've not had any opposition to it, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Just one moment. I'm going to just say a little something here. So, we have different ranges, obviously, in my area. And as most of you know, I'm also a gun enthusiast myself. And, the way I looked at this bill in particular was it was just to help with like upgrades, expansions. Like if you actually read the bill itself, it does specify, a broad expansion, stuff like that. But, to me, this seems simple, and it seemed like one of the things that would be easy to do to not have the burden on the gun ranges that already exist there. So anyways, with that, I just thought it was relatively easy to bring up. And, we can have further discussions on the local municipalities, but we'll see how that goes. Representative DeBoyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of am just going to echo what you just said, but it's more in the vein of is if you read the bill, it doesn't take any of the local control away from the parameters by which you have to comply to be a gun range or any of those things. It addresses the actual almost silence of if we do things that are in normal practice of a gun range, well, we already have the right to be a gun range, that doesn't create a scenario that someone can come in and make an allegation against us. That's the way I understand it.
Correct. These are already existing facilities.
Correct.
Just looking to expand and referencing back to what already was in statute.
Yep. Still governed by all of the ordinance regulations of what they
Correct.
have to do within their parameter. Yeah. Thank you.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. If you want to just hold there for just a moment, we do have an individual that would like to speak that opposes the bill. Heather Cole, if you would like to approach the podium and come to the microphone right there, that would be great. If you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, that would be great. And also, if you can keep your comments pertinent to this particular bill.
Good morning. Thank you. So I would like to state I'm not, I don't have a say or an interest in this bill in any way, shape, or form. I'm not a member of this specific community. I'm just a person living in Michigan who would like to speak in opposition of this. This particular law was established in 1989. A lot has happened since 1989, and a lot has been changed since 1989. And the technology that we have today available to us to determine if there is potentially some harm that could be caused by these improvements and these changes to this sports club, it's different now than it was in 1989, and it does matter. So I agree with Representative Carter that this does take away local control and it does cause potential problems, but also the individuals who are impacted in the communities by this, it takes away their right to sue if they are harmed from anything that comes from the changes that are being made to this sports club. So it's really important that the people in this state also have a say in what's going on there in their community, and that the state legislature is not just grandfathering in everybody and giving everybody just civil immunity and the ability not to be challenged on something that they're doing in a particular community that has direct impact on their property or their kids or their family members. So that is the reason I'm opposing this bill today. Just personal reasons. I don't have any interest in this legislation.
Thank you. All right, next up, I have a few cards. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill. Chandra Greco from the Insurance Alliance of Michigan. Not wishing to speak, supports the bill. Nick Bougie from NRA. Not wishing to speak and supporting the bill, Brady, oh my God, S. Schicklinger. Okay, hopefully, MCRGO. Tom Lambert supporting the bill, not wishing to speak, from Michigan Open Carry. And Robert Mitchell II, supporting the bill, does not wish to speak, but did submit written comments. Thank you, Rep. Wortz. Oh, sorry. Rep. Johnson has a question. Okay, thank you. All right, next up, we are going to address House Bill 5157 and 5158 by Rep. Kuhn, if you want to come up here. And then I also have a card of support, wishing to speak with you, Tony Buffa and Lieutenant Brian Wood from Oakland County Sheriff's Office. So your guests are obviously with you, and you have the floor right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Leitner and committee members. I introduced these bills at the request of Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard. Today we have two representatives from the Sheriff's Office, Tony Buffa, the Legislative Director of the Sheriff's Office, and Lieutenant Brian Wood, a 31-year veteran who's head of the county's narcotics enforcement team. These bills create a new crime for delivery of a controlled substance other than marijuana, resulting in serious injury. Serious injury is clearly defined in the statute and is very objective. And there's extensive case law that further delineates serious injury. So it's not vague or anomalous or unclear. So I'll leave it to the sheriff's office to talk more about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. We appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of these two bills that have been introduced by Representative Kuhn. The Sheriff's Office views these bills as they're about accountability when illegal drug distribution causes catastrophic, life-altering harm. Under current law, the state of Michigan has clear penalties when a drug delivery causes death, but we have far less clarity when a victim survives with permanent brain damage or loss of organs or limbs or other devastating injuries. For the victims and families living with those consequences, survival does not necessarily mean justice has been served. This legislation focused squarely on those whose illegal actions result in irreversible harm. As overdose trends fluctuate and the drug supply grows more dangerous, Michigan must ensure its laws address not only deaths, but the lifelong injuries that I've previously spoke about. For those reasons, I respectfully urge the committee to advance 5157 and 5158. We appreciate your time and consideration, and we're happy to answer any questions that the committee has.
No.
I'll
answer any questions. But
Your moral support?
yes.
So it's my understanding, okay, just a moment. It's my understanding, these bills just kind of address the gap. In simple terms, it's the gap. I remember when we increased the penalties for obviously overdose causing death, for the drug dealers, things of that nature. I get that there was kind of a little gap with injury, like you said, but is there not something else that can be used for it right now? Like,
Not to my awareness. I mean, honestly,
does it just currently fall under like assault or what? What are the
potentially, but I don't know that it would necessarily meet the element of I think we need a new law on the books that would address all the elements of the crime
Sure.
and give us all of the tools necessary to be able to hold these people accountable. And this is a real issue. We have, our drug supply more and more, and Lieutenant Wood can speak to this as well. They're taking drugs and they're cutting them with very dangerous chemicals, very dangerous cutting agents that come from a lot of times unknown sources.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the rise of xylazine as one example of something that is being used to cut these drugs, and that has literally caused people's skin to fall off. Necrosis of limbs is a side effect of continued use of xylazine, and that's something we've seen on the streets. And it's important, like I said, to provide law enforcement and prosecutors the tools necessary to be able to hold drug dealers that are, like I said, I mean, they may not be causing death, but there are permanent, lasting injuries that is, impacting our communities, and we view this as an opportunity to help address that.
Okay. And this is just your opinion, okay? I'm asking for your opinion right here on this next question. So the proposed penalty is life, right? Life in prison. And I'm sure you're aware we have had a trend in Michigan where life's not a real thing in Michigan anymore for prison, for a penalty. And this doesn't necessarily cause a death. And so I'm just curious if there's any thought to, rather than have just the maximum penalty, but to actually have for this particular offense a minimum penalty, because as you also know, we need to disrupt the supply chain. Sure. And that's something that has been stuck in this legislature as well, with fentanyl laced drugs as well. And there are very few crimes, I will say, that I even believe that should have minimum sentences. I don't think minimum sentences for all crimes is necessarily the right thing, but there's certain things that I think can help disrupt the supply chain. And this is another one of those, like, to me, drug trafficking, drug dealer bills that I'm just curious, in your opinion as a sheriff, someone who works at the sheriff's department, and seeing these people, seeing this crime, you know, like, what's kind of your feel on that? And what do you think is like a minimum term of years that would disrupt the supply chain? 5, 10?
Excuse me. Yeah, certainly. We are open to the idea of working with the committee and the sponsor to, it's been written the way it has, but we are open to changes. I would just note that, while the maximum penalty is life, it still leaves that discretion in a judge's hands. So, we're happy to work with the committee. I don't know if 5 or 10 years I don't know what the magic number is, but we're willing to work with the committee and the sponsor and other stakeholders to try to identify what a term of years that would be a deterrent to, putting poison on our streets.
Sure, just curious. Minority Vice Chair Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. We're in Michigan. We have probably the longest terms for, and we've worked on those things. It's been my experience once upon a time when I was an officer, we cannot, this will not stop it from happening. So 20 years, I think, is a good conversation to start at for max. Having these mandatories, I know it sometimes, I'm willing to work with you on this. I'll just say that. But life, I'll just say this, been my experience that most drug dealers don't want to harm anybody. They want repeat customers.
Thank you, Representative. Yeah, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate your willingness to work with us. Anything that we can do on our end, if you need anything from us, please don't hesitate. We're here to help.
Rep. Breen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing up xylazine.
Thank you for your continued support on that subject as well.
I appreciate that because we know xylazine right now is a totally legal drug. Anybody can have it and they won't get in trouble. And it's causing irreparable harm. I am curious as to the definitions here for serious injury and serious impairment of a bodily function and how this definition came about, because just looking at this, it seems like you could litigate the hell out of it. What defines loss of use? I mean, so if somebody falls and breaks their pinky finger and it's permanently crooked, is that going to be loss of use? And will that sentence somebody to a lifetime in jail? I want to know where this definition came from and if you're willing to maybe make it a bit more structured so that there's not so much gray area.
We're always willing to work with the committee to make legislation as effective and as strong as possible. I know that the language is the definition language of serious injury is very similar to other states that have passed similar legislation, including off the top of my head, I know Florida, Texas, Missouri, and North Dakota have passed language that is very similar to this. There's also a federal statute regarding delivery causing serious injury, and the definition in that statute is also similar. I think what we're trying to accomplish is that if your injury can be directly attributable to the drugs that you have received, then you would be potentially fall into the category of serious injury. I understand the gray area that you speak of as far as, if somebody is intoxicated and because of that and trips and breaks the finger, is that loss of use? And I think we're willing to have that conversation, and if we want to narrow it additionally, working with the sponsor, of course.
It almost seems like it comes from the Social Security definition or work comp definition.
And that may be the origin of it. I can't speak with certainty, but I can look into that a little further and follow up with your office.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you guys just want to hold off for just a moment, we have another individual who would like to speak, who opposes the bills, 5157 and 5158. Heather Cole, if you would like to come to this microphone again, and your comments again to this particular bill. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually going to echo a little bit of what the chair and Representative Carter both said. It's the term that's in this piece of legislation that's way too ambiguous. Michigan has a long history of giving life sentences for drug-related charges, which usually anything you do that also falls into that category of being a drug charge ends up being a life sentence. And this often disproportionately impacts people of color in this state. So it's really important that if we're going to propose new legislation and new penal codes, that we tighten up the terminology in that language so that it isn't disproportionately impacting people of color, and that everyone has the same term that they're serving, and it doesn't depend on which community or county you're in, that you're prosecuted in. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, I have just a couple of cards here regarding House Bill 5157 and 5158. Not wishing to speak and opposes the bill, Noah Smith, Criminal Defense Attorneys of Michigan. Not wishing to speak, opposes the bill, Gabriel Dresner, ACLU of Michigan. Not wishing to speak and supports the bill, Matt Saxton of the Michigan Sheriff's Association. I think we have one question. Rep. Wozniak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know you're not lawyers, so, but I think there's a causation issue here. What would you do if, say, delivery of controlled substance, but it's a workplace accident or an auto accident? Where does the causation go? You don't, I know you're not lawyers, so.
I'd have to defer to the good representative on that one. I'd have to look into that a little further and follow up.
Okay, great. Look, thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Okay. Well, with no more comments or questions. Oh, I guess Breen has a question. Rep. Breen.
Sorry. I'm a little concerned about when you say about causing harm to a person or another person. Like, if somebody's drunk and high, they get into a car accident, and then they hit somebody on the road. So the person that they hit, you're trying to make it so that they would be answering to the original drug dealer and not the person who hit them.
I would think both would be potential litigants in that situation, correct? I mean, you'd have the person who did, drove, and was high and crashed a vehicle, but did the person in that vehicle, did they suffer a serious injury as a result of the? I mean, I understand where your question.
Yeah, and is it like, are you talking like the cause or a cause?
I believe the language is the cause, but I'll have to double check.
So it would have to be the proximate
The
cause and not
proximate
just
cause.
one of several.
I believe that's right.
So, but if somebody's, say, drunk and high, how are we going to parse that out?
This is fun discussion. This is why we have committee meetings, so we can actually ask these questions and get people thinking, because even when you're drafting, you don't necessarily think of all the the domino effects.
I think the appropriate charge in that case would be operating while impaired. They would have nothing to do with the delivery
Okay.
causing serious injury.
I'm thinking of 8 million scenarios, but okay.
And like I said, we're happy to continue to work with the sponsor and the committee to fine tune this to get it in a place where everybody's comfortable.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we're not voting on this anytime. Like right now, this is for open discussion because it is a new thing. Oh, Rep. Hope, apparently.
Thank you. Yeah, thinking of scenarios here nonstop. This is a real thing that happened. A woman was high on methamphetamine, wandered away from a party in the wintertime, and died of exposure. Could the person who gave her methamphetamine potentially be liable for her death? Even though it wasn't like a methamphetamine overdose?
I would say that, the intent of the bill is not necessarily to target that situation, but I think we'd have to fine tune the language to make sure that we achieve the goal here. That's an awful scenario, but I don't necessarily think that's the issue that we're trying to address with this legislation.
Okay, something to think about. Rep. Kuhn, it looks like you have a little bit of work and some discussions to have on this, on these bills. But anyways, thank you today. Thank you, committee members. Hearing or seeing no further business, committee is adjourned.